Hello, friend. Welcome to this week's episode of the Remarkable People podcast. Today, we have a very remarkable guest. She was born, and her intellect and her emotions and the insights that she had, the gifts she had at a very young age were more mature than most adults. But what that caused her to do was to end up having panic attacks and nervous breakdowns at the age of 7, and then she learned to medicate it early on with alcohol. So we go through her life's journey from medicating the pain, so to speak, and then keeping busy to avoid being alone with herself and her thoughts and what she didn't understand. And we talk about how she traveled the world and started businesses as an entrepreneur, and how she went to school to get corporate finance degrees, and how everything came together. She met her husband. She had 2 amazing kids, one which was a miracle birth, which you're going to hear about. Unbelievable, remarkable. And then we talk about where she's at today and how it affects you and I. So check out this remarkable episode of the Remarkable People podcast with Brea Segger now.
The Remarkable People podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People podcast.
Hey, Brea, how are you today?
I'm really good and very warm being in Costa Rica, but very good. How are you?
Man, I'm remarkable. I was just telling our listeners a little bit about you and what to expect in this episode, but straight from you, straight from the source. We have listeners from around the world. This is their first Remarkable People podcast. Some of our listeners are loyal part of the community. They've been with us all 8 years, and we have many between. But if you were to talk to them directly right now, what would you guarantee that by the end of this episode, if they invest their time, they're going to get out of your story?
I do somatic emotional release. And what that means is we don't have to worry about the therapy and the stories and all the things that a lot of us have got really attached to and have ended up either consciously or unconsciously defining ourselves by. And what we're going to talk about today, amongst I'm sure so many other things, is can we just get to know the places in our body where we're holding some of these old attachments, old patterns, mostly subconsciously, and can from that place we allow those to just go away and stop holding on to these old beliefs and these old things that are getting stuck in our ways, which essentially should give us more freedom and more ability to live our life in alignment with source, God, whatever we want to call that place, that divine spark within ourselves, and express that to the world without all of the rules, without all of the things that we think we have to do, especially for other people or for society and all the conditioning we've had. So who knows where this is going to go, but that's the work I do in a nutshell. And that's how I try to live my life.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be right back with Brea in seconds, and you're going to hear her story, how she came to be so passionate about this, and how not only she was able to use somatic emotional release, but we'll go through practical steps of how she did it so you can too, right after this.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back in stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get our MyPillow bed sheets only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, only $29.88. Once they're gone for good. How about our My Towels? They're finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time and the only time ever, get our limited edition premium MyPillows. They're made with Giza cotton and designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now.
All right, Brea, welcome back. So you have become an expert in this topic, but I'm sure you weren't born this way. How did Brea's life start, and what was your journey like to bring you to today?
Okay, so I was born on the west coast of Canada in a really small town, and I was out in the country. And my growing up was I had two very, I'll call them strict Catholic parents, lovely people, and they meant really well. And they later got divorced, but for now, we'll just stick to being a child. And I have to say, my big memories start at the age of 6, 7 years old, around that time, around the time you go to kindergarten. And this is where I realized that I had these things that were different about me, but I didn't know they were different. I was really aware of people's emotions, like all their emotions. I was really aware of the energy that people, the subtle energies that people were holding. And so when my parents would be in the room, if they were experiencing anxiety or anger or whatever, and I think subtly, all of us as children pick all of this stuff up so well. And many of us retain this as adults. We're intuitive. We understand like what people are feeling. We can sense a room when we walk into it. But that was so acute with me. It was really overwhelming. And I had a lot of questions about God, about religion, about living forever, about hell. And I was not able to get the answers on these. And so this ended up actually before long, around age 7, starting to have panic attacks, nervous breakdown. So I'm a kid and I don't know, I'm not articulating like I am now. I'm just like trying to express what is happening and going on. And I saw this as some sort of cruel thing. Like, why am I so upset? Why am I so sad? Why am I having nervous and panic attacks? And my parents, bless them, were like, okay, we're going to get the priests over to come and talk to you. We're going to get you to therapists. And so that again just reinforced that something was wrong with me. I should be okay. There shouldn't be anything wrong with me. Just focus on the good stuff in life, be happy, and you're totally fine. So I learned to, over time, just hide this part of me. And I think this is true for many kids. Mine was maybe more obvious because I saw therapists, I saw priests, I had those discussions out loud. But learning to shut down those deep knowings that are really gifts that so many of us hold, and you could argue that all of us hold, learning how to shut those down. And I couldn't really shut those down, but I tried my best. And I did really until, gosh, I was around 14 or 15 years old. I started drinking really heavily. But up until that point, I would cry myself to sleep every single night. Like I really struggled for a good 7 or so years. The drinking came in and I learned that, hey, if you drink every night, guess what? You can fall asleep. You might not have a good sleep, but it was a lot better than having these sort of like nightmare anxieties about like just not understanding the world. And of course, this is the 80s, early 80s, pre-internet. No one's giving you answers. No one's there to guide you. Priests are lovely, therapists are lovely, but there's no guidance there. They were just, something's wrong with you. So that is my very early life in a nutshell.
Yeah, and we both grew up around the same time. And we have listeners all around the world, and humans are humans, but cultures are different. So within America, things weren't accepted if you were outside the norm. You had to fit this model in this mold. And people back then didn't actually say, oh, they have gifts. We don't understand.
Absolutely.
Those gifts are just super heightened. We need to help them learn how to use them. They're just like, you're wrong, change. If you're even to the point you're left-handed, you need to practice with your right hand.
Yeah.
If it was different, it wasn't accepted. So that's kind of what Bree's explaining, ladies and gentlemen. So was there anyone in your family or inner circle that kind of understood you and supported you, or were you just strictly on your own and you found the alcohol numbs the confusion? I don't want to say confusion. Satan's the author of confusion, but you had these gifts, didn't know how to control them, didn't know how to use them, so it stressed you out and you numbed the pain with alcohol. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I didn't know. I didn't have any guidance. This is small town. Imagine small town in America. This is not the place where you're going to be having these discussions with people. And I'm sure there were people that understood, but where would you find those at that age? That's just my parents aren't going to be like, yeah, go knock on people's door and talk to them. You just kept it to yourself. And I think our school system back then, especially, reinforced that as from that same era. Like you go there and you do your work and you don't question anything and you don't question authority and you do what they tell you to do. And it's a period after that. And that was the same with going to church or having questions about God. Like you don't really get to question too much, or at least I didn't. And if you did, it was like, this is the way it is. This is what it says, period. So that was my experience. And that felt very lonely. And I'm sure a lot of listeners understand that in their various experiences of just feeling alone and not totally seen, definitely not seen, like in the way, yes, people see you, but to really to see you as like the soul, the spirit that you really are, that wasn't so much what we were growing up with there in the 80s.
Yeah, and I don't want to get ahead of you in your story, but normally when people have gifts that they don't understand and they have this huge, whether it's intellect or natural ability, when they do start searching or they see somebody that might understand, sadly, 8 out of 10 times, those are bad people, like freaks or people trying to manipulate and
Right.
take advantage of, or like you have a gift that God's given you and these people use it for the wrong side. They're working with Satan. So as you're growing up now, take us through your story. Where did it go? Did you finally get it straight where you were just blessed with a great human to guide you, or did you fall into a trap? Or bring us through the story.
I definitely stayed with alcohol usage for a long time. And so it was a funny place where I would do pretty well at school, even though I was miserable, but I had a lot of friends. I was well liked. And I look back now and I'm like, I probably was the friend that people didn't want their kids hanging out with. Like I was nice and kind and there was like that side of me, but I was also like, where's the next party? Like, how do we get to the party? Let's make the party happen. And it was all avoidance. Like I just didn't want to be alone. Alone to me equated, I'm going to have to be with my thoughts and with my feelings and with my senses. And I want to avoid that at all cost. I did my schoolwork. I graduated. I would go to university. I would get a couple of degrees. Like I would go through and do that. I would get jobs, I would work, and I would do the same thing, work all day, school all day, drink all night. That it worked until it didn't. It worked until my body was like, you can't do this anymore. Like I felt like a walking bucket of poison. Like I was just ill and I was getting exhausted and I actually could feel my body shutting down on me. Did I have guidance? What was happening in the background of all of this is on my alone time, I would go into like spiritual, religious kind of bookstores and I would read a lot. This is the time of Eckhart Tolle and like people like that. And I would go and I would read the books and I would just sit in there and I was sitting there for hours. And then eventually I had a job. I worked at a gas station. I'd have a bit of money. So whatever I wasn't paying for gas and alcohol, I would go and buy books. So I did have this way of reading them and it was hitting me cognitively, but I didn't really understand the embodiment, like the deep knowing that comes with sitting in silence and having that connection with it from a deep place within. So it was like I was getting this and it was like feeling good, but I also was still in avoidance mode. But that was really like, it was having two lives, this like sort of life that nobody knew about where I'm studying and reading philosophy, particularly in spiritual books and self-help books. Didn't talk to anybody about that. And I'm showing up. I'm the great worker, employee. I'm the great student. I'm the great fun person that's going to go and drink all the time and have fun.
And then now you're going through this, and you said you went from high school to college to your career. Is that correct?
Yes. So what did I do? After high school, I actually I think I did 1 or 2 semesters of college, just entry social work. I was like interested in sociology, anthropology, philosophy. So I was doing courses like that and they were okay. Like I didn't love them. And to this day, I look back now, I'm like, of course I didn't love them. It was like still in this structure of how you have to learn and what you have to learn. And that I can look back now and be like, wow, really, I just want to learn how to learn. And then I want to be able to learn. But I didn't know that then. And then I went to Australia. I was like, I got to just leave. So again, thinking again, like everything I did was to avoid. So I can go to college, I can be busy, I can go drink at night. And now, hey, I can go to Australia and that will keep me occupied for a period of time. So I went there and guess what I did?
Got
What
drunk.
all 18-year-olds do when they go to Australia.
Yeah.
I drank all the time, every day, every night. And it was beautiful. And in a way, I had a good time. I lived off of bread and peanut butter. Like I had no money. I was living in hostels that were $10 to $12 a night back then. I don't know what the equivalent of that would be now, but that's what I did. And I had saved up money from working in the gas station. So I traveled and I drank. I met a lot of people. We could say I had fun, but I was also like, God, how long am I going to do this life? Like, how long am I going to be like this? I would continue on for a while. But that was like that first also idea, like, I can create my own life. Maybe I'm not doing what I want to do exactly. Like I'm very lost in this land of Australia, but I also did something. Like I bought a ticket, I got a visa, I got on an airplane, and that showed me that you can make choices and you can do stuff. You don't know where that's going to go, but that was like a big kind of aha moment, even though I didn't feel good about it at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what about, did you say you have siblings or no siblings?
Yeah, I have a sibling. She's 18 months younger than me.
And was she experiencing the same type, or did she's like, Brie, what are you doing? Why don't you just settle down? What was your relationship with
She
her?
will describe me as okay. I think our parents competition, I think as most parents unknowingly do, but set you up like, why can't you be more like your sister or whatever? So in a way, it was good for us because she would turn into a professional athlete. For me, being so sensitive and emotional, it was harder on me, but it did give us a bit of that internal motivation and internal drive that I don't know that we would have otherwise have. Who knows? So we were physically fighting. We were playing basketball, badminton in our backyard. We were out riding our bikes, and we were always in competition, and we were thriving off of each other. As a teenager, my whole family would describe me as a very troubled child. What is going on? As far as like these nervous breakdowns and panic attacks that I was having, she just thought that was strange. She never really talked about it. We've talked about it now as adults. She just was like, okay, that's just a different thing I don't really know about. I'm sleeping. And because it always happened at night when I was alone. It would happen during the day, but I would refocus myself and keep myself busy. But at night, when you're supposed to sleep, there's nowhere to escape to. So it was really a nighttime, like any evening from 8 o'clock onwards, where it was like, okay, you're supposed to read and go to sleep. And then I would be like, oh my gosh, like I can't do that. And we're really good. We're really close. We're really good friends now, and it's awesome. But we were like literally at war with each other.
Yeah, so now you're in Australia. Your family doesn't understand. You're making friends, but are they real friends? And the real friends you have probably, again, don't understand. So where's your life go from Australia?
So after that, I got to think here. I went back and I ended up doing a corporate finance degree at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. And I remember that program being really hard. So I think it was about 20, about 20 or something, 22 hours of coursework, like actual teaching time a week, plus another 20 to 25 hours of studying, and probably more than that. And you have to somehow balance that between drinking every night. So it was a lot. But again, it kept me focused on something. And I don't even know to this day, why did I choose corporate finance? I can look back and be like, wow, I ended up starting businesses. I ended up like it's been a very important part of my life is creating businesses and opportunities for myself and for other people. And at the time, I couldn't even tell you why I did it. I actually, you know what? I can. My grandmother told me, when you grow up, you should just be a banker because you're going to make money. You need to, and her idea of banking was like being a teller, by the way. But I think it was a stable job with good holidays or something. And so I had applied to work at a bank as a teller because you didn't need any experience. And they denied me. So I was like, okay, I guess my banking dream isn't going to pan out. By the way, I like really didn't want to work at the bank. I was like, because I looked at them, okay, guys, 80s, 90s, you walk into a bank. This is everything, right? With your little notebook and your checkbook and everything's written out in pen. There was nothing about that job that said to me like, oh, I'm sure you want to stand there and count money out all day long and give people change and then write things in their little checking book. So it's so funny that I even applied to the bank that was in town.
I actually
Um,
did that job.
did you really? How was
Yes.
it?
So I was running a jackhammer and doing physical labor. And then somebody told me how much they made as a bank teller. And it was like twice what I made. And I was like, okay, I'm applying for that job. But I didn't give up
Gosh.
the physical labor. So I worked Thursday nights, Friday nights, and early Saturday morning at the bank. And then I went the rest of the time and did physical labor again. But I remember I was just so unhappy and it was just not for me. The only thing I
No.
found interesting was it opened up a whole world to me because you see people that look like they're homeless and they have 18 accounts with maxed out the 100,000 back then,
Yeah.
this FDIC insured. And I'm like, wow. And then why are bank hours only open when people are at work all day? There's a reason, right? So I'm with you. Working at a bank, it was not the life that I wanted and reconciling and hunting dollars and but that was funny that you said that you were trying
That
to
is
work at the bank because your
so
grandma.
funny. I totally forgotten about that. And I forgot I'd even applied to work at a bank. And I love that you were there. And for some, and this is the thing that I've learned after running businesses, right? Like some people love those details, but if you're one of those people that likes the details, likes the Excel spreadsheets, and there was nothing in me that did. And then I end up doing a corporate finance degree. And I think my major was like business finance, if I remember. I forget what it was actually called, or like financial management.
Yeah.
And I got my Canadian securities license or certificate. And I'm like, what about that was and I
And
don't think I
some
was. It was
people
just
love
something to
it.
do. And
There's
some people
nothing
do.
there's
Oh my
nothing wrong with it. It
gosh.
just wasn't for me. But I'm just saying for
Yeah.
you, it wasn't for you, it wasn't for me.
It
But
wasn't
some
for
people it might
me,
be the
but
perfect career for you.
and those skills ended up coming in very useful down the road, and understanding accounting and financial and balance sheets and income statements. And so these are skills that I would start using down the road, but at the time, not at all. And then I'm sitting beside mostly, of course, there's those mostly, I call them guys because we were young, but men in the program. And some of them are just loving it. And I was like, how are you so good? How are you so naturally good at this? And there I am, like, it was just so funny. So, anyways, I'm thankful for that. It's been very useful. And it's also was like way out of my like why. And
Yeah.
I think
So
it was just because I was like, it's the closest thing to like banking. And I go to school and I avoid my life for a couple more years. Sounds good. Sign me
all
up.
right. So when you get out, do you go into corporate finance or where does your life go from there?
Yeah, I did. I ended up doing a lot of merger and acquisition work. I did this as a sort of as a consultant for a while, I would say. I did a lot of hiring. I did human resource management. So I was all over the place. Mostly, I definitely started working for a couple of guys that had a startup in Vancouver, and we were going into organizations. We were doing executive search to some extent, but then we ended up getting into merger and acquisitions. And then I ended up going off on my own and essentially being actually all over the place throughout the US, into the Caymans, Toronto, Vancouver Island, like back to my home, and going and assessing companies. And guess what it was from? It was from the financial perspective, like that was part of it. But what I started doing there, which was the beginning of my life changing, was I was interviewing every single person at the company, and I was getting their feedback, and I was distilling all that information. Again, remember guys, no AI was going to distill this stuff for us back in those days. So literally taking notes of all of this, distilling that information so that the organizations, and because I had an understanding of people's emotions, energy, what they were not saying underneath what they were saying, or whatever it was, like whatever was happening, and putting these reports together of how they could improve the productivity, the bottom line, or the happiness, like all of it, like everything in these companies, whether they were going to sell them or not sell them, but essentially how they could make the business better. And it was really different because most people assessing companies were really just looking at the financial statements and maybe going in, talking to a couple of the CEO, the execs. And I was really talking to every single person. And I loved it. I loved it. I didn't like the report writing. I didn't like sitting down all day, but I really enjoyed talking to people. And I look back now and I'm like, you guys, this was in my 20s. This was how I spent my 20s. Like, why were people even letting me in their businesses when I was a kid?
Yeah.
But I knew something. And I guess I showed up with that knowing of people. And that's what came across. And I had no hesitation that I could put an amazing report together for organizations and help them really get the right people in place and make some good business decisions, even though I had never owned a business at this point.
Yeah. And then now you're still single, you're still drinking. Did that ever interfere or did that help your career because you're out partying with the owners? Where was that? Was that
I
just
mean,
being managed or where was that at this point?
in some cases, it didn't feel good. I would often have to like wine and dine people in the evenings, and sometimes that was great, and sometimes it wasn't. I've had different boyfriends come and go. I was traveling a lot, so that would be difficult. And I'm sure I can look back and be like, I was unstable emotionally in a way, not in a way of like from perception, but from in a way of like total body exhaustion, like sleeping a few hours a night, being out all night and then working all day and writing reports and being stressed because there's deadlines and there's things to do and not taking care of myself or my body. So I remember this as being like a cool time in a way and also a hard time, and certainly a hard time with holding down like any sort of relationship that felt meaningful or healthy. And I'm sure I wasn't attracting the most incredible people either because I wasn't in that place. Maybe professionally that looked okay, but emotionally, no, I'm not taking care of myself. So why would I be with someone that's taking care of themselves either? That wasn't available at that point of my life. I was also traveling a lot too and taking holidays, and I really had a passion for traveling. So that was happening in the background of that too.
And then how long were you at that career before you moved forward to something else?
So in 2007, I was just done. And I just remember that I was working for a client that I did not want to work for anymore. I did not want to he owned a handful of different organizations. And I didn't want to work for him anymore as a consultant, which of course, so I was just like, I'm done, I'm leaving. But in my mind, I was like, I'm going to go somewhere. So where am I going to go? And an ex-boyfriend of mine had some friends that had just gone to Nairobi and they were putting together a recycling program in Kibera. So Kibera is one of the largest slums in the world, and it has many different districts and neighborhoods. So one of the districts was wanting to put together a recycling program. So, funny side note story is that my family on my mom's side, my grandfather had made his money by recycling and building up a very large recycling business. And so I'd grown up back then we called it scrapyard. We did not call that recycling. Like now it has like fancy names for all the different metals and everything. But back then you're collecting scrap, ferrous or non-ferrous metals, and you are taking those where those need to go. And some of that was going into the US, some of that's going over to Asia. And so I just had that background. I'd done a little bit of work there. I knew a bit about that industry. So I'm like, hey, I'm happy to come over and help you guys work with this particular neighborhood in the slum. So this is the end of 2007. And I hope I have the dates right here, but there was a presidential election coming up and there started being some really serious civil unrest at that time. And essentially all the expats had to leave. And we did. So we got on a bus. So I'd been there for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, got on a bus and we went down to Zanzibar. So that's an island off the coast of Tanzania for people that don't know. And we're like, okay, we'll spend Christmas down here and we'll just see how that is. When I was down there, after a couple of weeks, I was like, ooh, this is actually, I should really talk about this part. I had 2, maybe 3 weeks of downtime. So no internet. Again, internet was 2007. Not really like Africa wasn't interneting everywhere. You could do dial up or whatever. No distractions, nothing to do. If you went and to a restaurant, which there was very few, I was in a remote area of Zanzibar, which I believe now is all built up. So the story will not make sense to people that have recently been to Zanzibar. But back then, if you went to a restaurant, they actually would go and catch the fish, kill the chicken. They'd have to go and buy whatever the ingredients were, and then they would come back and make it. So like a meal was a 2 or 3 hour process. So like you're getting really used to just sitting and waiting. And at first, this is really uncomfortable. Like you're sitting in silence and there's people around. Sometimes you're talking or not, but there's a lot of alone time. So if you remember, I've just spent my whole life avoiding being alone, like really. And now here I am in the depth of myself, 2, 3 weeks of absolute, really solitude, slow, no distractions. And as uncomfortable as it was at times, I was like, I'm going to use this time to really go inside. I'm going to be with whatever is inside of myself, and I'm going to be with it. I'm just going to allow that to happen. And so I did. I would be in silence for hours and hours a day. I would go for long beach walks by myself for hours and hours a day. And this fundamentally changed my life. And something in me knew that I shouldn't go back, like not then. There was still some lessons to be learned. And so my mom, who I rarely talk to, but I guess I called her at some point or somehow, with one of those little phone cards you used to be able to get and punch in a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, the calling.
And so she said to me, I was telling someone you're in Zanzibar, and they said that some people from Vancouver Island have started a college there teaching business to locals after they've graduated high school. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see if they need help. So I ask around, where is this place? Turns out it's like a 30-minute walk away. I walk to the place, I knock on the door, and I'm like, hi, I'm from Vancouver Island. I'm here. Do you guys need do you need a business teacher? And they were like, yes. And so I would spend the next 5 months there teaching business, a bit of English, a bit of philosophy, a bit of whatever was just available that I could think of bringing to these students, whatever they needed, listening to them, supporting them. It was absolutely incredible. And this was 5 more months of me essentially not having distraction, like showing up for my classes and for my students. But outside of that time, Zanzibar is on the Indian Ocean. Gorgeous, absolutely beautiful turquoise water. It's so warm. They do a lot of, or at least back then, they did a lot of pearl farming and harvesting, and these women in their beautiful dresses sitting in the shallow waters. And I would go out and I would swim. I would essentially swim and then float in the ocean. And I just let that connection to nature, to God, to source, to just be there with me. And my life changed. My nervous system completely changed. My body changed, my mind changed, everything changed because I finally started listening to whatever that was that I first experienced when I was 6 years old. And I got to know that, and I got to know it on my own terms without being scared of it, without somebody else telling me what to do or what that has to be, or I was just me, myself. And I'm so grateful that I had that time.
So now you're teaching, your body, your mind, every part of you is doing a reset. And then where does your life go from there, Brie?
So there was a clinic by the school, and what would become my husband shows up there, and he was an acupuncturist, and he had just started a college, like maybe 5 or 6 months before. So imagine this. We're young. I think we're both 28. He's 28, 29. And I'm told, yeah, a doctor who's a doctor of acupuncture is going to come with a couple of students. And so he shows up, and I'm like, that's not a doctor. He's my age. What? And we met each other, and I was like, this is who I'm going to marry and have kids with. It was just, and I never thought that would happen, or I never would have thought that was what was going to happen from there. And it was just that acute for him and for me. We just both knew. We didn't talk about it like that right away, 'cause that would have been weird. But we both just knew. And as it would turn out, he had started this college out mostly based on acupuncture, but he wanted to do an integrative medicine college where it was herbal medicine and nutrition and ancient Chinese medicine. And we would end up adding other programs. I'll get into that down the road. But he had started that with this idea of not just saying that like Western medicine is bad or Western medicine is good, just like allowing it all to be seen and for students to really learn it with a greater and wider variety of perspectives. So that was his intention behind it. He had been teaching at other colleges, and he wasn't loving how people were running them. And there was a lot of corruption involved. And so he was like, I'm just going to start my own. So he got a couple business partners together, most of which we would later buy out. But so he shows up a few months into this project, I'm an acupuncturist with big dreams, and I built this college with, I don't know, 10 students at that time. And here I am, I understand business. And I'm like, okay. It was not long after that. It was almost right away. Like I was still in Zanzibar for like maybe another month or two, and he was taking his 2 students to Uganda to do another little internship. But essentially he had promised them that he would take them on this trip to learn acupuncture and to work in Uganda and to do this so that they could understand that. And as like early on students at this college that he had just started. So it was a really interesting. So we would go back to Vancouver Island, and I would finish up some of my merger and acquisition work because I still had some clients that were waiting for me to get back. And I did that. And then I started working at the college. And again, this is where all the finance comes back in that I never thought would. Again, I'm back in it. I'd been in Zanzibar for 5 months, but now I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Now it's like I'm actually in there. I'm not just consulting. So going through all the operations, all the systems, all the bookkeeping. And of course, it's a bit of a mess because no one had any business sense at that time. So I would spend some time cleaning that out. And then, of course, growing the business into a thriving place over the years. But that was, yeah. So everything about me staying in Zanzibar, knowing I shouldn't leave, meeting him, my life drastically changing, going from Vancouver, and I'll just explain this to people. Like a lot of people get Vancouver and Vancouver Island mixed up. So Vancouver Island is a very large island off of the coast of Vancouver, but it's very big. It has the capital of British Columbia. So I was in the city of Vancouver, which many people have had. That's Whistler. People know of it from the Olympics, but that's where I was working and as my base in my 20s. So now I'm going back to Vancouver Island, which is where I was born, to now become a partner of this business and grow this integrated medicine college.
Awesome. And then now all this is going on, life's changing and growing. At what point did you guys get married?
We got married in 2009, so about a year after we had left or met, and then our daughter was born in 2010. So it all happened really quickly. And yeah, life was just changing from month after month at that point. Gone were those days of that stagnation of, okay, another client, another report, another night of drinking. I rarely drinked after that point. So I didn't have this big like coming to. We used to go to an Irish pub and have some like Guinness every now and then, and I would enjoy that. But every time my body kept touching alcohol, it was just no. It was just like, okay. And then I tried again because I was like, oh, it's fun to go and drink. And it's like, no. And this would go on for years of me. But what would be like once a week, then become once every 2 weeks, then became once every 2 months, and then became like a few times a year. And that was how I slowly stopped drinking. I also wasn't drinking in Zanzibar, just mostly because it was just hard to get. I didn't really care. I was so fulfilled and nourished with this relationship that I had with just the land, with spirit, with this incredible force that I was now connected to. So a lot changed then.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Brea Segger, and we are at the point where she is in Vancouver Island. She's married, has a child. But when we get back, she's going to not only explain to us how she ended up in Costa Rica, but we're going to talk about the somatic emotional release and how this not only helped Brea, but it can help you too. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. I am blown away by Omaha Protein Popcorn. This is the first review I've ever done for the company, and it is one I am sure of many This is the last bag of 8 I got in my first order. They are delicious. They have caramel, chocolate, peanut butter, chocolate peanut butter. This one right here, they got nacho, they got spicy nacho, they got the cheddar cheese, and I think they have a couple more. I know they have 8. I've tried them all. They're all delicious. And this is what's crazy. They have up to 40 grams of protein per serving. So when you eat this delicious bag, like for me, this is super sugary, but it's delicious. I have to be careful. When I say super sugary, it tastes like fruity pebbles and I could pound down the whole bag. But for children, for people working out, for adults who are having a hard time keeping weight on and getting that good quality protein, Omaha Protein Popcorn uses the highest quality of protein in the world. They take it, they build it into each specially packaged bag of popcorn, so it's the longest shelf life. I opened this one, I think a month and a half to 2 months ago. I put it in a Ziploc bag and it's still perfect and crunchy. It tastes fantastic. And like I said, the only downfall I found is it's hard to stop eating. So go to Omaha Protein Popcorn, use promo code Remarkable. You will not be disappointed. You're going to get 10 to 20% off your order with our promo code and free shipping. And when you get it, you will love it, order more, and tell your friends. So just remember, I told you about it first. I'm David Pasqualone. I hope this truly helps you not only have tasty food, but get you better health, put on healthy weight, get your kids to eat when they're fussy eaters. And then if you're having trouble just keeping calories on, this is a great way to do it. And again, while most supplement companies are using the bottom of the barrel protein, Omaha Protein Popcorn uses the highest quality of protein in the world. So you can learn more at omahaproteinpopcorn.com. Use promo code Remarkable and leave a comment and let me know how much you love your popcorn when it comes in. Ciao. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Brea. So we are now in Vancouver Island. You are helping your husband grow his business. It sounds like he is teaching you about the holistic world and somatic healing. Maybe I don't want to assume anything, but clearly we know what this episode's about. So something had a bridge, right? So take us from that. First off, if there's anything through birth and that point, fill us in if we missed anything. If not, take us from where you are in Vancouver Island to how you get to Costa Rica.
Yeah, there's only so many details we can share, of course, but my husband he was really passionate about acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And he had done his training with a guru in Sri Lanka, and he had worked a lot in China. And so he had a whole different idea of that world than what we would say just if we just went and learned here in Canada or the US. So he had some incredible experiences and training and had different ideas of what he wanted to bring to the world. I would become a business partner. And so there ended up being 3 of us running this college and making that all happen, and me primarily on the operations and the business side of it. So this really just gave me that deeper permission to really listen to my body, the nutrition side of it, the health side of it, even acupuncture. Like to this day, you can study the meridians. Everyone understands that we do acupuncture. There's meridians related to different parts of your lungs and your different organs. And what is all of this about? And there's so much to learn about it, but no one really knows, how does it happen? What's the magic of sticking a needle in somewhere in your arm and then suddenly your heart is feeling better, or whatever it might be, right? There's a little bit of magic to it. And this is the ancient wisdom that a lot of our predecessors had in their different ways, whether that was China, India, wherever, of understanding the body and the energetics of it, which of course related to my childhood and this understanding that I had of energy. So this was confirmation for me that, hey, you're not crazy. What you feel, what you understand in yourself and other people, I don't need to write that off anymore. And actually, it's probably a gift and I don't need to be scared of it. And so I don't need to hide this part of myself. I was still all this time through my teens, through my 20s, I'm the person everyone came to for advice, whether that was like, what's wrong with me? What's going on? And I was like, this is what I see in your system. But it didn't seem special to me. It just seemed like, I don't know, it's just what I see because that's just what I knew. So again, this was really helpful when you're in a business, when you understand people in that way, or in, like I said before, when you understand what people aren't saying. And it's really helpful when you're then growing your own business. And then this allowed me to, I'll talk about my daughter's birth a little bit. So she was born in 2010. And this is for all the mamas listening that have that knowing and that intuition. So I wanted to give birth at home, but with a midwife. And after 48 hours of being in labor, they make you go to the hospital. So we ended up at the hospital. And I'll make a very long story short, but essentially after being in the hospital for about 6 or 7 more hours, the OB tried to turn my daughter inside of me to help her come out, and the cord prolapsed, which stopped her from receiving oxygen. By the time that I ended up having an emergency C-section, came out of me, she had gone 21 minutes without breathing. And the midwife was there in the room. I wasn't. I was out cold for this. And the doctors, they do resuscitation for 10 minutes. And the protocol at this hospital is to call it after 10 minutes. And my midwife had said to me, and I had said to my midwife on the way to the emergency room, just put her on top of me. Put her on top of me. She's going to be fine. She will be fine. I promise you. And that's not the protocol of the hospital, is to take the baby to a metal sterile tray away from you. And so that's what happened. But the midwife somehow had remembered what I said, that she was going to be fine, and then said to the surgeon, just please keep resuscitating, keep going. And so he did. And it was within a minute or two after that she started breathing. So when I woke up, now I was dealing with a different surgeon and a different person. I had missed this. I wouldn't find this conversation out till later. I was told, hey, go just say goodbye to your daughter. She's going to be a vegetable. If she makes it, she's likely going to die really soon. So it took me a little bit of time to work up the courage to go and see her. And I'm so confused, right? Because in my mind, it wasn't like a crazy mom. I knew it wasn't crazy mom, just like thinking your daughter's going to be okay. It was like such a deep knowing. It was like, I just knew. But then I'm like, okay, I guess they're right because the doctor's telling me. So I go see my daughter a couple hours later, and she had pulled out the oxygen tube from her nose and was breathing on her own. And I knew without a doubt that this little baby was absolutely fine. Now, you cannot tell the doctors that. They are certain that she's going to die and that she's not okay. And so I plunked myself down beside her, and I didn't leave her bedside. And I kindly and gently, for the next few days, they had her on a bed of ice. They didn't want me to touch her to warm her up. It was this new protocol they've been trying out to reduce brain inflammation. And they had all these protocols in place. And I just kept being there. I didn't leave. And I just kept being there kindly and firmly. No, she's okay. She's okay. Anyways, I won't go into the full hospital details, but the point of that story is like, this wasn't a knowing from like the head where your brain goes and weighs everything out. It's just that deep something that moms know. And we have that amazing connection to our children. And I would get her out of the hospital on the 6th day. And she's incredibly bright and an incredible, nearly 16-year-old now. So born in 2010.
No issues, perfectly fine.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say this, and whether people like this or not, the doctors wanted to put her on drugs right away. And I truly believe if I'd done everything that they said that they wanted to do, again, they had good intentions, she probably wouldn't be okay. They wanted me to have her in a program where like she goes back to the hospital every week and we do these check-ins for her development. And I said, no, I'm like, no, if there's a problem, I'll let you know, but she's fine. And I don't want to go looking for something where there's nothing to find. And the medications would have been strong and probably would have caused long-term damage to her.
100%.
And now I have this thriving, incredible kid that it hasn't succumbed. I don't think she's had to have any medications ever at any point. So that's, a little side story to put in there.
Oh, it's a great story. That's a miracle from God that he has a plan for you. He has a plan for her.
Absolutely. And it really changed what I saw around birth too. And I would end up creating a doula program that was really extensive so that the mothers have support. Because what's happened, what's probably happened in most states too now, is that midwives, they used to be there for the mom and for the baby, but they were just present. And they were like old knowledge keepers of like really ancient ways of helping moms give birth. And now it's become very medicalized. It's about note taking, and it's what our doctors have ended up having to do too. You have to turn off all of your senses and your intuition while you're focused on following all the protocols and the note taking and all the things to keep your license. And so it's a different state of existence now for everyone really in the medical system. So doulas and having that as support, somebody that's really there for the mom and just present, is really important too. And I wish everyone could either have one or could afford one. Sometimes states providing them and provinces do. Often we have to pay for them. And I think that's too bad. We need someone there for the moms, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. So now your husband, you have a business, this beautiful little girl, miracle baby. Where did your life go from there?
As though we weren't busy enough, I was like, we need to buy. No, I had my son, and then I decided we have to buy a permaculture farm. So my son was born in 2013, and I was very fortunate. I was able to do a home birth with him, and he's incredible. He just turned 13. And a permaculture farm was next on my wanting to do. I wanted to, this connection with nature that I'd always had, even when I was young, this like sitting, laying on the grass, sitting under a tree, climbing a tree for hours, like just spending that time. I had really given that up. There was these different times during different travel. There was this, of course, in Zanzibar, I was very connected to the ocean. But it was like my world had now revolved around business and computers and being under fluorescent lights and meetings and everything like that. And I had this deep calling in me to come back to the land. And that's what we did. We bought a heritage herb farm, and I got to know everything. I already had an interest in seeding. I knew how plants grew. I'd been doing some of that in my backyard. Doing this at a larger scale, water management, goats, chickens, all of the things. And so I still have that to this day, even though I'm in Costa Rica. It's a passion project, and the earth and what it provides is still just so close to my heart. And nothing, talk about being like a geek. When those little seeds, when you plant little seeds in little trays and you see them pop out of the soil, it is a miracle. I don't know how else to say it. It's the right conditions, but I think it's also magical. There's a little bit of water and a little bit of soil, and this thing comes to life, and it knows that you're there, and you can sense that there's a connection and a relationship with it. And I think that's such a reminder of how we are all so connected, and we're connected to the plants, and we're connected to what we eat, and we're just connected to everything. But it's the seeds popping up that just give me that little giddy, little childlike, isn't this amazing sparkle.
That's awesome. And that was in Vancouver, or was that
It's
in?
Vancouver Island. Yeah, so it's about an hour away from where I grew up.
Okay. I lived in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Mount Vernon, Burlington area for 3 years.
Okay, so you really weren't that far away.
No, I was actually closer to that area than I was Seattle, Washington, because
Yeah,
we were so
yeah.
far north. So yeah, that's a beautiful area. All right. So now you have two kids. Your husband and you are staying busy, but you still have a kind of a balance. What brings you to Costa Rica?
The short story to that is COVID. So I have the college, I have my kids, I have the farm, and I'm also starting to work with clients somatically. That started off, it's been a sort of evolved process, but what I realized was I could hold space for people. There's not great language around this yet. It sounds a little new agey, which I don't love, but we can hold space for people without trying to force what we think they should be like. And this is where I think the downfall of some of the new age energy healing medicine stuff is that we make up in our brain what we think the outcome should be for the person. And it's well intentioned. We want everyone to feel good and to be happy. But I was like, what if I just am there as a presence for people to heal themselves if their system's ready for it? What if it's not the brain directing it, but it's our soul, our energetic system, our nervous system, our body all working together if they're allowed to. Essentially, this is what I had learned to do when I was in Africa. I had learned that, hey, if I'm just there and I'm present, miracles happen. Your body knows what to do. And it's not just your body, there's so much more to it than that. And it knows what to do if we give it the time and the allowance to do it. And so I started basing my work off of this. Now, COVID happens.
Actually, before you go on, let's
Oh,
do this,
yeah.
Brie. You hear so many people talk and they'll throw out terms like somatic release.
Yeah.
How do you define it? Because, like you said, there's a lot of people they're using the same terms, but they're handling it much differently. So, how
Yeah.
do you define somatic release?
Okay. Because I've created my own way of working, somatic release is the closest terminology I could find to describe what I do. I wouldn't give it any words at all if I had my choice. And I almost don't, because my clients are all referrals and they just come to me, and that's how I'm just there. And I have learned how to allow just a presence within myself to be there. And so it's like my nervous system is talking to their nervous system subconsciously, which allows them to feel safe enough. And when the people I'm working with feel safe enough, their system can go into a state of whatever sort of healing that is, emotional, physical, whatever. But it has nothing to do with me with waving my hands or doing fancy energy work or anything like that. I'm just a witness to them. They're doing it all. I'm just there as a presence of safety. Somatic release is the closest I could come to, because what that means and what people are trained into, if you're a somatic therapist, is that we can bypass the brain so that we're not reinforcing the same stories and the same patterns that we've been so used to doing and saying all the time. And we can let the nervous system, it's really based on letting the nervous system recalibrate and realign. And I really think the future is more about, if I envision the future, and maybe this is just my daydream, but I see us seeing each other as individuals, and we start getting away from the certifications that honestly some people thrive in and others don't, but just because they have a certification, we think they're good, or we maybe have a judgment on it that it's bad. Like, we've all really in my opinion, given our power away to something outside of ourselves over and over again, like in the way of, okay, this institution must know exactly what they're doing. So therefore, if we follow their protocols, then we can do this thing. And I think we're missing that divine essence and our divine gift within us that wants to be expressed in a unique way. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but I think a lot of terms are misused, overdone, overstated. And I think we're really missing the essence that's coming through us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and to make it very hands-on and practical, what the people that you work with, what are normally the problems that they're struggling with, and what does a somatic release enable them to do?
Okay. So a lot of people are having like repetitive, reoccurring, looping thoughts. So this could be like, I'm not good enough. And so they're sabotaging their life unconsciously, right? But they're because I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. And they very honestly came through this from probably how they were raised by their parents or their teachers when they were younger. In like my way, like in the business world and the entrepreneurs and all the leaders I work with and the CEOs, it's like, I feel like I'm not enough and I have a lot of anxiety, and I'm just going to keep pushing and not really listening to what my body wants or what else is really there within me. And I don't want to also be in quiet time or alone time. I work with a lot of CEOs that they're working 60, 70 hours a week. And when they get a week that's 20, 30 hours, their whole system goes into shutdown. It's very uncomfortable for them to not have a big work week. They're checking their phone constantly. They're waiting for the next email to come in. They're waiting for the next message to come in, because that's what their system has learned how to thrive off of. But I know that was me. And you're missing you. You're missing that essence in you, and you're in avoidance, right? But I don't need to tell people that. They know that. And so we're like slowly getting them used to feeling safe and okay, deep, deep down within, not from the mind. They know they're okay. They know they're safe. Their mind knows they've listened to the podcast, they've read the books, they know all that. These are smart people. But to really, truly feel okay, to really feel safe at a deep internal level that has nothing to do with your brain, it just comes through you. That's a whole different thing. And that's a lot of the work that I do with particularly that group of people. Also PTSD, depression, different traumas.
Yeah, and let's do this. Let's finish your story, and then we'll get into some maybe exercises or steps people can take to at least try to start the process on their own to see results, and then they can contact you to continue the conversation and grow.
Yeah.
So you are now in Vancouver. What brings you to Costa Rica? You said
Okay.
COVID. I know COVID was a big part of it.
I think COVID brought a few million people, no, not that many, but loads of people to Costa Rica, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama. Yeah, it was on Vancouver Island on the farm. And we'd always wanted to travel with our kids for a year. So that was always on the back burner. But when COVID happened, I was looking, my kids were in a Montessori, and they start explaining to us what the days are going to look like. And I was like, there's no education happening here. You've got 2 hours carved out for standing in line to have your hands sanitized in the hallways. And so that the classes, so one classroom doesn't pass the other classroom at the same time. So they're explaining this all to us on a Zoom call. And I'm like, I look at my daughter. She was on the Zoom call with me. I don't know how old she was at this time, but I'm like, this sounds crazy. She's like, I know, mom. And I'm like, should we just start our own school? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we had a space in our barn that we had built out of cob. We built this big pond and we used the mud to build the walls. And we had this beautiful big space with a fire and a nice wood burning stove and like just a great space. And I'm like, let's turn this into a classroom. I'm like, surely there's got to be other people. And I was right. There was. I contact our neighbors. I find out, hey, do you guys have like kids that will actually want to go and have a learning experience, but that's based on like farms and growing? And they're going to do English and math and some science, but that's based on the land. And there was. And so within 3 weeks, I had hired a certified elementary teacher that was super in line with this and the connected to nature and understanding source and God. And that along with she knew about farming and growing food. And it was just this perfect mix. And so right away, so this is the start of COVID. So we started that because, and it worked out great because soon schools would be shut down anyways in Canada, particularly British Columbia. And then after that, in Canada, it was pretty draconian. It was, you can't come back into this country if you're not vaccinated. And I was like, I don't know, like this doesn't seem, that seems like a pretty harsh rule not to let your citizens back in after, I think it was October 30th. I don't know what the date was. I'm like, I don't know about that. So I was like, I think we're leaving. Talked to my husband, the kids, and they're like, okay. I'm like, somewhere is going to come. Like it'll just become really obvious where to go. And it was probably within a few days of that my husband was talking to a friend of his from Tennessee, and they had just moved to Costa Rica. And they're explaining, I'm overhearing this conversation on the phone. He's explaining this little surf town, and they have cool schools, and it's remote, but it has everything you need, and there's really cool people here. And I'm like, that's the place. That's where we're going. So it wasn't like I had Costa Rica on my mind. I had a feeling we'd end up in Central America, but I didn't know where. And we were down here 5 weeks later. And we thought, hey, we'll come for the rest of the semesters, half 6 months, maybe a year, but probably 6 months. And it felt so good to be here. I still love being on our farm. I still love being on Vancouver Island. It's not like I'm anti Canada per se in that way. I think there's a lot of shit going on in the world all over the place right now. So there's that. But it felt really good to be able to raise my kids with freedom and autonomy to be outside playing with their friends, literally in the dirt, surfing. There's great jiu-jitsu community where we are. There's a great skateboard park, and they're riding their bikes around, and they're just being kids, and they're just doing life. And it's really been it's nearly 5 years now, 4.5, getting close to 5 of being here. And I got to say, I wish every kid, this is how we grew up probably in the 80s and the 70s. And like, this is closer to that. And that felt really important. I'm really grateful that we were able to do that.
And that's awesome, Brea. So between your birth and today, is there anything else we missed in your life that you want to cover before we transition to some practical steps. So if somebody is stuck in reoccurring thought patterns or PTSD, how to help them get out of it? Or do we cover everything you think is key?
As far as the parts of my life, I think so. And I think if people are listening to this, perhaps what they'll notice is that I left when things didn't feel right. I changed my life when things didn't feel right. I went along because I did all the bad. I did all like bad. I'm calling it bad. I did the drinking. I did the addictions. I did the work addiction. I did the feeling like I couldn't get out of it because I had to survive, because I had to have money to be okay, or else I wasn't going to be okay. And I learned that we can make decisions that are different, and it doesn't have to be what's expected of us. And I make it sound simple that when we started that college, Todd had just started it, had gone into debt. When I joined, we went into even more debt. Like we grew this thing and we took some big risks. And when we moved down to Costa Rica, and actually when we bought our farm too, like big risks. When we moved to Costa Rica, it was like people were like, are you like, why would you move when you're saying goodbye to your friends and family? And these are like, there's so many reasons. And I'm not saying everyone has to move. That's not it at all. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say there are so many reasons for us to stay complacent in jobs that we don't like, or the way we're living that we don't really like, or like we think is okay, but it's not quite right. And that they're really, we really can make changes, and they can start off by being small, because I've had lots of small little decisions I made. I've talked about some of the larger ones in this conversation, but there's just a lot of little ones I made, which then would give me the confidence that, hey, I can make a bigger decision. That's crazy to be like, I'm just going to start a school on my farm and I'm going to have this up and running in a few weeks. Like, to me, that wasn't a big deal, but that would be for other people. But it was because I had built up with making those decisions that I knew I could just do something like that. So I'd love for people to know that everyone can change their life. Everyone can do things or not do things, as the case might be. A lot of the time it's just to stop doing the stuff that we know we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and that's very true. A lot of times, like drinking, not only did you know intellectually this isn't good for me, but your body was screaming at you, don't do it. Stop. It doesn't feel good. You said it felt like it was shutting down.
Yeah.
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 So we got to listen to the insight that God puts in us. All right. So now, again, everybody's different, but there's always foundational elements that are the same for everyone too. So if someone's stuck with reoccurring negative thoughts, self-sabotage, PTSD, depression, what are some things you've seen work, Brie, that at least to give them a catalyst or a starting point to try and apply to their lives?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. The first one, which I think is the most important thing, is to literally carve out 20, 30 minutes to yourself every day in silence. And I don't mean meditation. I'm not trying to turn you into a yogi or a Buddha or anything like that. This is not what I do. Go lay on your couch or your bed and just be there. You're not trying to find peace. You're not trying to have an outcome, but you are giving permission for your body and your soul and every energetic piece of your nervous system to naturally just be, and it goes into a state of realignment. It starts reorganizing itself because we're actually subconsciously saying to it, hey, I'm giving you the space and time. I trust you to do some of the work for me. Doesn't matter what my head is, doesn't matter what my head's looping on or like thinking of. Perhaps I'll start with gently bringing my focus to my body, but not in a way where it's, if I don't do it, I'm a failure and I'm not doing this right. That's not what it's about. It's about carving out a little bit of time for yourself to be what will likely be uncomfortable at first, because like, why am I just laying here or sitting on a chair? And why am I just letting my system do the work? We've been blessed with these amazing, incredible bodies. And really, we work them hard. We put substances in them that we probably shouldn't, and I don't just mean like bad food or alcohol or drugs. I mean, like anxiety and stress. Like we are constantly filling our bodies with stuff where our bodies are like, oh my God, can I just have some time to realign and do this? I know what I'm doing. I can do this for you. And we don't let it. And we do a bit to sleep. But when we do this consciously, when we're like actually building a deep level of trust within us, that's one of the most life-changing things we can do. But it has to be consistent. It has to be something where we're letting this build over time and seeing what happens. Another, and why I like this, by the way, is because there's no formula. Like you don't need music on. You don't need somebody to guide you. Like the way that I work and the why I'm able to work the way I do and with the people I work with is because I've listened to myself exactly as I just described to you, which is like just being. I did that for long enough that I realized like I can actually work and hold space and guide people from that place. I can reflect back to them from that place. And I've built a whole career from that. And I get to work with incredible people and help people from something that sounds so simple. And this at first is really hard for us. Well, Brie, that sounds so simple. Yeah, the simplicity is what makes it so hard. We are so used to guides, lines, and rules, and we have to do this, and we have to reach this by a certain date, and we're supposed to be doing this. And what I'm saying is the opposite. I'm saying like it's really hard to be in the simplicity of ourselves. We have very much overcomplicated it. So you're not going to mess this up. You're not going to do this wrong. But if you just allow yourself the time to get to know yourself from that place, who knows where that's going to go? Who knows what's going to happen from that? Being in, oh, sorry, go on.
Do you allow yourself to run with the thought? Because you could be sitting there in silence, or you start thinking about all the things you got to do. Then it's, ooh, that hurts in my back. What's going on? Then it's,
Yeah.
oh man, this is this. And you just have thought of thought. So do you keep going back to a place of just push all that out, or do you just follow whatever thought comes? What do you
It's,
recommend in that 20
yeah.
to 30 minutes?
It's more like being aware of your mind. So I really see the mind is like this thing that is trying to help you in a way, but in a way that went a little bit overboard. So if we think about it, our brain got very used from our ancestors and the past to look out for danger. So it's on hyper alert. So this is why all of these thoughts are in you. It's what if you forget that? Then you have to do that. And it's constantly going because it's trying to keep us safe by thinking of all the things we need to do to be okay. So what happens then? We're always not feeling safe because it's like we're creating this thought pattern in this loop of trying to be safe from the brain, and therefore we're not safe because we're always trying to fix the next thing. And now you have all the systems that have come into place from our society, our education, our governments, like everything, every system society is essentially telling us that we're not safe, we're not okay. There's all of so around insurance, taxes, houses, like we have a million things to deal with every day. And how are we supposed to be okay under that? So we don't have a supportive society to bring us into this. So we have to figure this out ourselves.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Just insurance. I don't know why. I've thought of this many times in my life, but I was thinking, how many forms of insurance do we have? And people
Right?
today are brainwashed, myself included, that it's almost absurd. How could you not have that insurance? You could,
Mm.
might, maybe. Society and I believe Satan has us convinced instead of just to trust in the Lord, to trust in Mutual of Omaha or to trust in Lloyd's of London.
Yeah,
And those people don't care about
exactly.
you. They just want profit. So we have such a false notion and dependency on the things that are going to burn up instead of having that trust in the Lord and what's true. So that's funny that you brought up, and the first thing out of your mouth was insurance. Because what is it? You have health insurance, and it's really not health insurance, it's medical insurance. You
Mhm.
got life insurance, you got auto insurance, you got business insurance, you got general liability insurance, you got werewolf insurance. People will do anything. So it's true. Your mind is just never at ease.
Yeah, and this is just insurance. But
Yeah.
these systems outside of ourselves, which have nothing to do with us being in that relationship with God, it's like there's false gods everywhere we look, for lack of a better term. In the thing of our medical institution and what we need to do, our housing institutions and what we need to do, our educational institutions, how we need to work, this reliance on money. And money is a really interesting one because It's not that it's good or bad. I don't believe it's good or bad. There's not like an evil or good energy, but underneath money is telling us that we're not safe and we're not okay. And so it's built on this false lie. And I think there's something within it that all of us know deep down, like we know that there's another way to live. Like we don't really know what that looks like because we've been so indoctrinated and told what our lives are supposed to look like. But underneath that, somewhere, and this is why a lot of us just feel restless or have this mild anxiety, is because we're like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a different way where we're not filling out 1,000 insurance forms and all the other bills you're paying and all of the things we're paying for our kids and their education, and we're not even sure if that's even doing anything or making things worse. Like the food we're eating, the farming systems, like we innately know that there's something not quite right. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel this more and more. I've just had the sensation of this since I was a little kid, but it's the same sensation I had then that I still have now, other than now I'm like, okay, I'm going to live my life the way that I can in alignment from that place. And hopefully maybe other people will start to recognize that, because I think we need to not be scared to listen to this inner knowing that we have. This is crazy. This is crazy how we're living and how we're being told to live, and everything that we're being told to pay and what we have to pay for and how much we're doing it and what is going on here. What are we supporting?
Yeah, no, 100%. So now you have people, whether they're struggling with their obsessive thoughts or exhausted, first thing is take 20 to 30 minutes every day and just sit in the silence and just see where it goes and try to be where you can have peace in that silence. So what's the second thing you were saying we could try at home?
Yeah. The second thing is, look, we have this incredible gift of nature outside. And I really think it has so much guidance in the silence. People are trying to always listen to what the voice says and how loud it is. It's a subtle knowing, going back to the simplicity and ease, but it's connecting with the earth again. It's barefoot. You don't have to go barefoot. I'm just saying, I would suggest that. But what I'm trying
There
to
is
say, like,
science to that,
there
though.
is some science to that.
I mean, I hate
Yeah.
going, I'm being honest with you. I grew up outside of the city, so I hated being barefoot because you get like all sorts of nasty things. But grounding and the energy in the world that God created, again, God makes everything perfect, I believe, and Satan is the one that takes it to crazy warped levels. But energy and the way the earth grounds and the way that their communication and there's vibrations and frequencies, that's all in the Bible. It says the heavens sing. So if you believe the Bible, again, there's truth to this, but you just don't want to take it and go crazy with it.
Yeah.
So
The
walking
earth is
barefoot, that
like
actually is a proven thing, correct?
it really is. And that's just one example, but it's really about remembering that nature is there to support us and we're a part of it. We're connected to it. This is what we see when like the seed grows. But a good example of this, of the abundance, is here in Costa Rica. There's so many monkeys. And when there's mangoes on the tree, they take one bite and they throw it down. They take one and you're like, this is a big mango. Gosh, these are like $6 each now. And they're just like, they know at the deepest level that they are taken care of, right? Animals know at the deepest level that they're taken care of. Humans, we are, but we forgot because we have been told by something else that we're not taken care of, that we're not okay. And we have forgotten that nature is abundant and that we are taken care of in so many ways, from our spiritual to food to whatever. And so getting ourselves to remember this again, and not in a forced way. This isn't your mind being, you don't have to hug a tree and be like, tree, tell me everything, but just let yourself be in nature and be immersed in it. And that's just one of the biggest things. I get up. One nice thing about being in Costa Rica, I get up early. I look at the sun first thing in the morning. There's loads of science and data around this. You get that sun in your eyes in the morning, you get some vitamin D during the day. I know not everyone can do that based on where you are. but then you sleep better at night. This totally reinforces your circadian rhythm. So there's a lot on the physical side of that we can do, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't get to say all these things. But the point is like nature is there. It's not about having to necessarily follow one more medical protocol or take one more drug. Maybe it is for you, but is there something else that you can do that can bring you back to that truth within yourself that you're holding and that magic within yourself? And I think to me, that's worth a try at least.
Yeah, 100%. And I know hospitals in the past, some of their most documented successful healing techniques, they used to have sun wings where people would just go sit in the sun.
Yeah.
And now they don't even do that because, from what I understand, it helped and they don't want it
Mhm.
to help. They want to make money off the pharmaceuticals. So it's really a sad state of affairs we're in. But this is great. So, number one, get 20 to 30 minutes of silence. Number two, go outside, ground with nature. Give us one more. What's one more thing you've seen someone, especially with PTSD or those reoccurring thoughts, those obsessive thoughts? What do you see really successful to help people break free and have peace?
Yeah. So it's just an awareness. It's an awareness that you're getting to know that your thoughts do not have to define who you are. Your brain is temporary. You have this here while you're human. Your body is temporary. It's going to die too. And even your emotions, I don't know if you're going to take those with you when you die, but your soul, your spirit, right? That's you. That connection to God, that divine spark within yourself. That's you. So it's getting to know that the rest of this is temporary. It's constantly changing. And we can start seeing these reoccurring thoughts for what they are and be like, okay, there's there. We don't, if you fight your thoughts, they will grasp on even stronger. I bet a lot of people have tried that. I know I used to. I was like, get away. Don't keep doing this. I can control these thoughts. It'll just increase. If you ignore them, same thing. But it's more of an awareness. You're like, oh, there you are. But also there's something more to me than just my active brain. And we're slowly starting to build that trust that I'm a soul and that is infinite and that is incredible. And I don't have to be defined by these temporary things running through my brain. They're there, they're gone. They're there, there's something else. Now it's telling me right now something's wrong with me. Now it's telling me something's wrong with somebody else. And we just start like seeing it for what it is. And that just takes a level of like actually wanting to be aware. And it takes a decision of wanting to live in a different way, or at least knowing that there's a different way to live and to feel while you're here on earth.
Well, Brea, it's been great spending time with you today and hanging out. I've learned a lot. I've been inspired. And before we wrap up this episode, between your birth and today, or any final thoughts you want to leave with our audience?
I want to say thank you to you and for everyone that listened to this and maybe found some of this of interest, but just simplicity. Let's from stopping overcomplicating these things, whether that means like we got to change some at a larger level. Some people listening are probably out there ready to change the world at a larger system level, but also what are the things we can just do in our life to bring simplicity and more ease? And this has nothing to do with being lazy or being complacent or anything like that. It has to do with like when we feel connected to nature, we feel connected to the divine, there's simplicity in there because it's ease, because it's us. And it's like, how can we just allow this to lead our lives a little bit more?
Ladies and gentlemen, we just hung out today with Brea Segger. Brea, thank you for being with us today. It's been a true pleasure.
Thanks again.
All right. And like we've discussed in every episode, like our slogan says, ladies and gentlemen, listen, do, repeat for life. Don't just listen to the great information Brea shared with you, but do it. Take those steps she just discussed, 20 to 30 minutes each day. Get outside, try to walk barefoot. Take the time for just simplicity with God and nature within yourself. And then repeat the good each day so you can have a great life in this world and more importantly in eternity to come. I'm David Pasqualone. This was our remarkable guest, Brea Segger. Brea, thank you again.
Thank you. It was a great couple hours, so loved it.
Oh, us too. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you. We'll see you in the next episode. And if you have any questions or want to continue the conversation with Brea, check out the show notes, whether you're in Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and you can connect with her, and hopefully it just thrives even more than this show started you. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next episode. Ciao. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope this show has inspired you. The whole purpose of the Remarkable People podcast is to inspire you, to motivate you into action, to help you have an even better life, to overcome things you've not yet been able to overcome, or to grow to the next level that you never thought possible. And all of this, not just to benefit you in this world, but to have you come to a relationship with God where it grows every day stronger, and not just this world is blessed, but your eternity is blessed. And we sincerely want to do just that and to glorify God. And we hope with this episode, we accomplish that. If we did, please let me know. It's great to be encouraged and to spread the word to our remarkable guests that it helped in your life. If we didn't, let me know. Write me an email. You can go to davidpasqualone.com, go to our contact us page, and let me know what you think. I got tough skin. Let it rip. Anything you can think of to make this a better podcast, to help you grow and to glorify God, I'm in. So that's it. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for sending us feedback. If we can help you in any way, let us know. And if you can spread the word about the Remarkable People podcast, share the episode to your friends, your family on social media, it would be a huge honor and blessing. Again, I'm not trying to be the most famous podcast in the world for my benefit. I truly want a podcast that's the best podcast in the world to help as many people as we can to have a better life, come to know Christ, to grow in the Lord, and to have that salvation so they can be with God in peace and joy in eternity. And right now we're together on this earth, so let's do everything we can to work together and help each other grow. Like the Bible says, love the Lord thy God is the first commandment, and the next commandment is to love thy neighbor as thyself. So let's do it together. I'm David Pasqualone. I love you, not as much as God loves you, but if I can help you in any way, just ask. And again, please share this with your friends and family so we can help them too. Ciao. See you in the next episode.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.